So welcome again to our information session to talk about this year's call for proposals. Today, I want to spend time talking with you, and I'll start out giving a brief overview of the Innovation Fund for those who may not be familiar or just to be reminded of the goals of the program. I'll also provide a general overview of this year's cycle, the theme, and also things that you can begin thinking about now if you're considering creating a pre-proposal. With this being called the Innovation Fund, one of the core things that we'd like to do is to show our members how innovation strategies should be incorporated into your pre-proposal application. But these are also strategies that you could utilize in other types of programs and proposals as well. And so I'm going to take some time to talk a little bit about those and how you can think about your user or your audience as you're crafting your proposal, and why that's also a big piece of our application this year, and also how you'll be evaluated. We will then have time for open Q&A, but I will say, if there is a question that, pops into your mind before the Q&A, you are welcome to put that question into the chat. And Head of Innovation, Catherine Walters-Conti, is here to assist me with that, and she may just give me a nice shout to take a pause and address a question regarding something that we're covering. So again, feel welcome, because this session is for you. So feel welcome if you want a question answered before we get to the Q&A to put that information in the chat. And then at the end, I'll stop sharing my screen and I can address other questions as well. So again, like I said, let me start out giving an overview of the Innovation Fund here at APS. The Innovation Fund developed from APS's 2019 strategic plan. We've had 5 solicitation cycles. You'll see the number of pre-proposals and proposals that have been reviewed. And since 2019, we have awarded 13 proposals with a total of $1.7 million awarded. These awards have ranged from $50,000 on up to $200,000 over 2 years. The goal of the Innovation Fund is to advance the APS mission. And so with this fund, it is important, and you'll see some of the projects, their focus has been on creating a more welcoming and supportive home for our members and those that we want to engage to become our members, and to make sure that we're supporting and encouraging a diverse membership, to advance and advocate for scientific discovery, to also share the excitement of physics and communicate that with not only the physics community, but the world, and to promote effective physics education for all. So again, since 2019, that's been the goal of the Innovation Fund, and we want to continue to carry that forward. Here's a list of our funded projects that we've had since 2019. And I just want to remind everybody to please mute unless you want to raise your hand and ask a question out loud. And Catherine will be looking to see if anyone raises their hand and wants to talk to ask a question. So a list of our funded projects that we've had for the Innovation Fund. I won't go into detail about all of them, but just wanted to give you some examples of how this fund has been used to advance the APS mission. Some of these may be familiar to you. You may have heard of APS IDEA, which is very well known in the physics community throughout departments and started as an Innovation Fund project. Also, you might be familiar with DALI, the Departmental Action Leadership Institute, also started as an Innovation Fund proposal. And we currently have 3 active proposals that are some finishing up and some that are going into their 2nd year as well. I encourage you to read more about our projects on the Innovation Fund website. You can read about the bios of the project teams, but you can also see some of the news highlights and really get a sense of how we are trying to impact positively the physics community. And again, just a reminder, if you can, for everyone to please mute. So this year, we are having a thematic call for proposals. And I know you've seen the email, you've heard, but 2025, APS has been working to have an International Year of Quantum Science and Technology. And it is ever fitting that this year's call for proposals is centered on this international year. And so we are looking for proposals that will help share the knowledge, the importance, also the excitement of quantum science and technology, and also the benefits for everyone and career opportunities. So there's no particular, audience that we're looking for, because we want you to make this as global as it can be, and also advance the public understanding and appreciation for quantum science and technology. If you'd like to read more about the timeline for the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology, and read also more about the goals of this international year to help you craft your pre-proposal, I invite you to join, to click on, not click, but to use the link that is provided there on the slide to learn more about this tremendous effort the APS and a lot of other physics organizations are taking on. In order to apply for the Innovation Fund, the principal investigator must be an APS member. So it does not matter what career stage you are at. If you're an APS member, you can apply to be the principal investigator. You can also add up to 2 optional co-PIs. It is not required, but in something like the Innovation Fund, we promote collaborative work. And so we do see it as a benefit to do some of this work as a team. And in thinking about who your team may be, it could be all physicists, right? But we've also seen projects have a lot of impact with a diverse group of project members. So we've had some of our projects incorporate a social scientist in the work that they're doing, or to incorporate, an expert, event and marketing manager. So think about, again, who your team should be. And it doesn't have to just be physicists. It can, but think about the diversity of experience and expertise that can really propel your project forward. If you are a graduate student or postdoc that's an APS member, again, you can be the principal investigator or join a team. But as the principal investigator, we support that, and we can work with you and talk more if we need to after the session regarding just having a letter of support from your advisor to do that work. In the past, the Innovation Fund proposals or awarded projects have been up to 2 years. With this special thing that we have, we're really focused on the activities taking place in 2025. So the duration this year for the projects is 1.5 years. We expect that activities and planning will start at the beginning of 2025 and complete during that year. But then you'll work with the APS Innovation team so that we can assess the impact of the work that you've done. Also, please note that the Innovation Fund, we see this as, an honor, a prize, an award that you're getting from APS. And so it's important that you are aware of the APS ethics guidelines because not being aligned with those could prevent you from being awarded an Innovation Fund award. So let's talk about funding details. We are planning to award up to 5 grants for that year and a half, each valued at a maximum of $50,000. Examples may include for things that you can include in your budget. It could be travel. Maybe you want to develop an educational kit. Maybe you want to hold a conference or a forum, and you can utilize all of that with this funding. The award will be issued to the PI's institution on a reimbursement basis. So again, if you're thinking about submitting a pre-proposal and you're not sure about the reimbursement process, I encourage you to speak with your department now, or if you have questions for us about it, we're happy to discuss. So once awarded, the funds aren't just sent to the university. You will invoice us quarterly, and then we will reimburse the university for those expenses. The deadline for pre-proposals is May 6th, which is, we think it's not that far away, but definitely time is going fast. So I hope some of you have already thought about some great ideas that you can submit. April 9th through the 30th, I want to highlight this opportunity. So we will be holding office hours, and you can schedule a time to, if you want to talk about your idea, or maybe you have your idea fleshed out and you want to make sure that it's meeting the evaluation criteria, or you want us to see if there's some questions that you haven't answered. We encourage you to utilize this option. Right now, there are 30-minute time slots, and you can, from the Innovation Fund website, you can go online. There's a link, and you can sign up for a time to have one-on-one time. It could be just you, or it could be you and your team to meet with a member of our innovation team, so that we can, review and not necessarily give you all the answers, but just make sure that you're in line with what the review panel will be looking for. I am a part of the review panel, but I do not vote on proposals. And so I have an unbiased view of your proposal and can just give you really the information that I know the review panel wants to hear. We are making a priority, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, that our APS units are involved in this process. We want these proposals to advance desired interests or current activities that APS units have going on. So as you're thinking about your proposal and your idea, remember to look at the APS unit's website to see if your idea is in line with a unit. And if it's not, that's fine, but we will prioritize those interests, and relevant units will also be asked to provide feedback on not only the top pre-proposals, but also the full proposals as well. By July 1, you will know if you need to submit a full proposal, and then August 9th will be the deadline for those full proposals. November, we will notify recipients, because we do have to go through a longer process to have the review panel and also other people review those proposals and make sound decisions. So there is a little bit of time in between submitting your full proposal and hearing the decision. So I want to just take a little bit of time before we talk about innovation and innovation strategies. And I want to get an idea of, how do you define innovation? If you had to do that with one word, how would you do that? So you can use the QR code, and it will take you directly there to enter your word, or you can join at menti.com, and the code is there for you to join. So I want to hear, when you think of innovation, what is one word that comes to mind for you? And I'll give you about 2 minutes. Great. I also was checking the chat, and I see a question regarding the slides. And because you had to register, I will actually email all of this to you after the session, and it will also be available on our APS Innovation website. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment so that I can get the results of what you all said you think about regarding innovation. All right, some words that are coming up now. I see novel, new, advance, engineering. Oh, I love that. Disruptive, creativity. Hopefully I can hear more about that later. impact, progress, forward, unity. I like that, and wish we were in a different space so that I could hear more about what made you think of unity regarding the Innovation Fund. But thank you for participating in that and giving me the opportunity to hear a little bit about what you think innovation means. All right, so when we think about innovation and the definition that we use is for something to be innovative. I did see novel and I did see new. So it does have to be new. You'll see I also put new-ish here because in order for something to be innovative, it doesn't mean that you have to start from scratch. It could be something that currently exists that needs to be improved or changed in some way. If we think about a lot of things that we have, for example, televisions, iPhones, those things are not new, but there are newer versions that come out all the time. And so think about that in regard to how you can impact the physics community. Doesn't necessarily need to be a new idea. It can, but it could also be taking something that exists and making it better. The other piece with innovation is that it can't just be a good idea. We all have great ideas. We don't want to just be a good idea. We want it to be a good idea that also offers value to the people who are going to use it or be engaged with what you are delivering. And I also want to note that when we talk about innovation, a lot of times we think about business and technology. And sometimes it's not something you hear a lot in academia. But using innovation is very important, especially as you are developing new initiatives or developing a new program or maybe managing a committee, because it's all about enhancement and performance, and also making sure you don't miss a lot of the small pieces that are easy to not think about and just kind of jump right in because you have a great idea. I also want to note our definition that we use for social innovation. And I'm sharing this because as we work on the Innovation Fund and we look at the APS mission and why it was developed to have better solutions for our physics community, physics culture, recruitment, retention. And so we also see the Innovation Fund as a big piece of social change. And so I wanted to share this piece with you because sometimes, depending upon where you work, you may not see yourselves as an innovator. I talk about that a lot. You know, my previous work in higher education, I never thought of myself as an innovator, but I was always having to think of better solutions to recruit students, to retain students, to support them. And so I hope that you will also take that on as seeing yourself as an innovator, whether you submit a pre-proposal or not. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about social innovation in a little bit, but I wanted to go ahead and share that definition. So now I want to talk specifically about innovation strategies before we go into talking about the application. So when you have an innovation strategy, it is really starting to think about the idea, craft it, how are you going to communicate it, how are you going to take it from an idea to implementing it. And the innovation strategy is important because a lot of times we get really excited about our great ideas and we just go and we just start doing them. But there's a lot of things to think about before you jump in and do your great idea. And I want to share some of those now. So the strategies that I'm going to share very quickly. And so again, that's why this is recorded and slides will be shared with you. But I want to talk about the 4 phases of innovation, pillars of social innovation, human-centered design, value proposition, and also the business model canvas. And again, if you're thinking, okay, this is great for the Innovation Fund to know, but I hope as I'm talking that you'll see how these things can also be used in many other parts of our work that we do. So the phases of innovation, first is clarify. So what is the problem that you're trying to solve? You have this great idea, but also thinking about what problem it solves. And remember, when I said when we think of innovation, it's not just new, but it's also the value. It's important that you think about your users. And so you'll hear me today say users, say customers, and you may not think of, maybe the people that you work with or that you serve as your users or customers. But in this context, it's important to think about who's going to engage in what you're proposing. And that's what we're calling user and customers. And it's important to define who you are creating something for, as opposed to just having the great idea, not thinking about the specific audience. Also, what clarify is to gain insight on the user needs. So again, not just having a great idea, not just deciding who it's for, but what do they really want? Ideate. So once you have clarified, is now, all right, I know my audience, I know the problem, I know what they need, and taking those ideas and generating those ideas that they actually fulfill their needs. With develop, it is, all right, we got the idea. What's it going to look like? But also making sure that you're critiquing the possible solutions and not falling in love with one idea, which is why we also encourage collaborative work, because it's always important to get a variety of perspectives around an idea. And then the last phase of innovation is implement. And I can talk a lot more about these, but I just want to share the general pieces so that you're thinking about this as you are starting your pre-proposal application. So with implement, it's not just doing the thing that you're going to do, but it's making sure that as you've created it, it is offering a clear value to the people engaging with you and also your partners. And I'd just like to note, it's important in the impact, especially if we're thinking about the Innovation Fund and impacting the physics community. It's important, and we want you to think about not just your idea, but connecting it to the people. And if the people that you're designing it for will be engaged, then what you create is going to be impactful. With human-centered design, the first stage is desirability. And if you've already looked at our application or our website, you'll see that that is one of the things that we're asking you to define. So making sure that you find out what people want or need. And I would say before, with our Innovation Fund, we didn't always necessarily ask you to tell us what the people want or need. It was more of, why is your idea great? But we want to actually hear and see sources on how you know this is something that the group will need. Can they connect it to what they want and their needs? So when they see this, even if they participate, is the impact going to be there where they feel like, yes, this is something that I needed and I want it, and it has changed the way that I look at quantum science and technology. Also, is it feasible? Can you do it? We all know, there's a lot of things that we think about and we're like, I don't know if I actually can do it or have the resources to do it. But as you submit this proposal, think about and need to know, can you do it and how? And what resources you need to do it. We're providing seed funding, but we know there's a lot of other things that you need to make your project a success. And then viability, which is also a criteria for the Innovation Fund application. We're only giving you a small amount of seed funding. It's a short amount of time, 1.5 years. But the goal here is that this seed funding can propel you into something further with this idea. Because as we are solving, cultural or environmental challenges among physics, if you've got a great idea and it's working and the impact is there, we don't just want it to stop there, right? We want it to keep going. So again, with your proposal, think about, how do I keep this going? And how long can I keep it going? And why it's important to do that. The pillars of social innovation, I defined that earlier. And I just want to share those pillars, and you're going to see similarities of social innovation, but then also looking at the human-centered design as well. So again, is there demand for what you are proposing? How do you know people will participate and engage? That's important. And again, I think I'm just saying the same thing over, is that we want the great ideas, but we want you to do the things that people really want and need. What's going to happen if people participate and engage? How is their life changed? How is their intellect changed? How does that impact maybe the choices that they make about careers or things they do in their work? So being able to define it as opposed to saying, yeah, something positive will happen. We want you to define what that will be. And again, the growth of it. So similar to the other pieces of design of how do you make sure that everyone who could benefit can be a part of it? So in thinking about those things of designing something for the customer or the user, it's important, again, we talked about the value. And in order to determine your value, we encourage you to use something that we call the value proposition, something that's already out there and has been out there for many years in the business world. So when you think about your customer, your user, whoever that may be, it could be undergraduate students or graduate, K through 12 populations, industry, government, but define who your customer is. And then you need to know, like, what do they need regarding quantum science and technology and career opportunities? What is it that they need? And when we say find out what they need, not necessarily not you determining what they need, but them telling you, this is what I would need to better engage and understand quantum science and technology. Their pains, the pains are the frustrations. What frustrates them, currently about quantum science and technology? What frustrates them about the information that is or is not currently available to them? And what do they want? So if you are designing an experience or a course, whatever it may be to engage them in quantum science and technology, what type of experience do they want? And that's what we want you to propose, the experience that your customer wants. And that's going to get you to the value. So if you know their needs, you design the solutions to meet their needs. The frustration. So you change and make the experience that it's not going to be frustrating for them, that they're going to better understand quantum science and technology in the way that you have designed it and have shared it. And then again, relieving the pain. What do they want? Do they want it to be more entertaining? Do they want it to be in coursework? Or do they want career panels? So again, think about what is the experience that they want? What are they frustrated with? You got to talk to them and find out. And that's what gives you your value. This is an example of the business model canvas. And this is an opportunity, an exercise that I encourage you to do on your own. But the business model canvas encourages you to think about all of the pieces that are necessary for a new concept, idea, a new program, in order for it to come to fruition. And in the center, you'll see value proposition. So you got to have that value before you start going. And the business model canvas is something that you do before you implement your solution. I will say I was had the opportunity to share the business model canvas and do some exercises with it at last year's APS April meeting. And I had some great faculty members who were there who already had current outreach and engagement programs going on. And it was very interesting. And one thing they said is that, wow, I never thought about all these pieces. And their projects are working well, but they were like, there are some things that maybe I would have missed, right? If I had just stopped and thought about all of these things, right? So what I'm going to share next is to really get you the questions that will help you answer the things here in the business model canvas. So I just want to start and highlight a couple of things. Key partners. A lot of times we're like, yeah, I'm able to do this on my own, but I think it's important to think about, let's say that you are developing something for undergraduate students, to think about who all is connected with undergraduate students. They may not need to be a part of your design team, but how can you include them in providing guidance? Maybe there's an advisory board. Maybe the user target audience, you include some of them as a key partner to provide you insight, right? The key activities, thinking about everything you need to do in order to make this idea happen. The relationships, customer segments, and I do want to highlight customer segments there because in thinking about your user, you want to be very specific and think about their characteristics. if you are designing something, I'm just using undergraduate students, for example, what are the characteristics of that population? And being very specific, because the characteristics of maybe physics students is very different from a business student or an education student. So being able to also do the research to make sure you know who your customer is and also how they like to be served. Because maybe you're proposing a resource on campus, but also thinking about, do they live on campus? Is it hard for them to get to campus? Would they rather engage this other way as opposed to just offering something and not knowing if it's accessible to them? That's very important. So I'll go now to, I took the business model canvas and I wanted to add specific questions to help people as you are thinking about your proposal. And so I think if you look at these questions and answer them as you're developing your proposal, and also note on the pre-proposal application, these questions are in some way weaved into what we have on our pre-proposal to also help you think about that. All right. So again, what is the problem you're solving? So we've kind of given you a little bit of start, right? Our theme this year is quantum science and technology and opportunity. So we've given you sort of a problem, but now you define the specific problem among that, among lack of awareness or lack of understanding. You define what that specific problem is and how you're going to solve it and for who. But also thinking about how are you going to interact with the people that you are providing this opportunity to. Let's say that they don't live close to you or they live in a different country. How are you going to engage and how are you going to engage other audiences as well into what you are offering? So now I'd like to go into our application and evaluation and talk more about the specific things we're looking for and how you're going to be evaluated. So first, which we've talked about some, is the scope. Again, theme, quantum science and technology, the international year, advanced public understanding. And when we say public understanding, you may say, all right, I can't make everyone, I don't think I can make everyone aware, right? And increase their understanding. But when we say public, we're just thinking that it's not something that you do, maybe, you know, just you among your office and a few people, that they're really broadening who your users are. And it's something that other people would be able to see and maybe utilize or will help them also understand, even if they're not directly engaged with the work that you're doing. You'll see here again, bolded is, it's important that you consider alignment with existing or desired unit activities. So now is the time, as you think about your idea, to peruse the APS unit's website, the goals and missions of those various units, to see if what you're existing, who it aligns with, because we're going to ask and make sure that it's something that could enhance what they are doing or they want to do. So the proposals will be reviewed by a review panel. We have a review panel that's comprised of APS presidential line, also senior leadership team, our key partners we are including this year, which is important, which is our membership unit, our marketing and communications. We've also reached out to some quantum industry and also higher education experts who are part of that review panel as well. We'll also have the APS's International Year Quantum Working Group to review some of those proposals, the top pre-proposals, to get a sense of, are these really aligned with the goals of what we're trying to do here? And then also the relevant units. So the review panel will review all pre-proposals and all proposals and select the top ones that stand out from that pre-proposal group to have the IYQ working group and also relevant units take a look and give some feedback on their relevancy and also alignment as well. The evaluation criteria, which is also on our website, but I just want to hit some of it here. And again, you've seen some of these words throughout the presentation today. What it means to be innovative, and I love that someone said novel because it is right there in our criteria. But again, it could be new or reimagine something that already exists. And in doing that, one thing with innovation is to look at what's already out there to also make sure that you're not duplicating, or maybe you all can be partners, because a lot of times we've got the same goal and maybe we're doing similar things, but think about who you can align with. Or the other piece is we want to know how your idea and your concept is better than what already exists out there today. Again, promoting public understanding, the relevancy there. So please utilize that International Year of Quantum website, because it will give you a lot of insight into the goals and how you can, as you're writing your proposal, make sure you're aligning it, what we hope to happen in 2025 with all of the activities and programs that will come not only out of the Innovation Fund, but also globally. With it being feasible, we need to know that you've got this great idea, but that you have the resources to do it, and that your team has the expertise to do it. And again, it may be, again, you need a quantum expertise, or you don't, just depending upon what's there, but you've got to describe to us how your team is able to make what you propose happen. And defining and engaging your audience. So the intended audience, it needs to be specific, not just K through 12 students, because there are many, many, many of them, but is there a specific location? And making sure that you're describing their needs. The needs of K through 12 students in a rural area might be very different in a large city. And so we want to make sure that you understand your audience and you define them in alignment with what you're proposing, and you also are telling us how you're going to effectively engage them in the work that you're doing. Our main focus, or one of our main focuses, is making sure that innovation is impactful. So we need precise objectives. We are asking for KPIs, very specific things, so that you are able to show how what you've done has made a positive impact on not only the people that specifically engage, but how this can also make the physics community better. And even though it's not a requirement, it is important in any time of innovation to know, how do I keep this going? Because it is impactful and it is advancing our mission and what we hope with the International Year of Quantum. We don't want it to end. So we're challenging you to think about how you can keep it going. For those projects that are awarded, I'm just giving a heads up now that they're required to have quarterly progress meetings with myself and the head of innovation as a check-in and also as a support. We require annual progress reports, financial reports, and the innovation team will be working with you on an impact assessment. So we won't just we want you to define them in clear, but we're going to work alongside of you to make sure that they are clear and that your audience is accessible so that we can gauge the impact that happened during your award time. And we also want, most importantly, people to know about the work that you're doing. So we encourage any types of presentations, APS meetings, we are supporting those, or symposias, but we want people to not selfishly know about the Innovation Fund, but know that this member benefit that APS has is important and that it is making our community better. Before I end and we go to our question and answer session, I did want to share that our innovation team, we are available to provide innovation consulting to you or your team. It could be regarding a research proposal, programmatic, even department initiatives. It could be a new committee. It could be a new look on recruitment or retention or student support, or recruiting various applicants, or outreach and engagement. We are happy to take time with you and talk about value proposition and guide you through that discussion, and talk about the business model canvas and how those things are so helpful in defining all the things that you need to do and the people that need to be involved to be successful. So you can email us at innovation@aps.org if you'd like to just have a discovery call with us and talk about how that support might look, or ask us any general questions there. All right, so we have come to the end of the official presentation, and I'm so glad that you all joined us. And a quote that we are living by is that innovation is the path, but impact is the destination. So keep that with you as you are designing your pre-proposals or thinking about ideas of how you're going to impact the physics community and drive positive change for the physics community. So if you have questions after the session, please do not hesitate to email if@aps.org. I'm the person that sees those emails and can answer one-on-one. We can also schedule video calls to talk more. You can also visit our website, which has a lot of this information as well to help you prepare for any questions. And also remember to visit our website to see what our past awardees have done. So remember, May 6th is the deadline for pre-proposals. I encourage you now, if you'd like to have some one-on-one time with us to talk about your proposal, your idea, you don't have to have it fully fleshed out. You can go to our website and sign up for one of those times, and that's for April 9th through April 30th. So thank you again for joining. We will now I will ask Catherine Walters-Conti to let me know if there are some questions in the chat that need to be answered, or if you'd like to raise your hand and come off mute and ask a question at this time. We've got about 15 minutes. I actually have longer than that if you need to stay after 1 o'clock with questions.
Right. And I don't think there are any outstanding questions in the chat, but if you have a chance to peruse the chat, a lot of good questions came up. So please check out the chat to see, any other, tips and other items that you might not have thought of. But we've had a very good discussion in the chat. David Stillwell.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for the information today. This was fantastic. So I've one quick question and one maybe a bit broader. The first one is, in the last couple of slides, you gave us multiple contact emails.
Yeah.
So there was innovation@aps.org and if@aps.org, and then there's these like office hours, like you mentioned.
Yes.
Is there certain questions that ought to be directed at certain email addresses or different sessions?
Yeah, absolutely. So if it's primarily about the Innovation Fund, you want to do if@aps.org. However, we have a general innovation email address because we have other programs that are not the Innovation Fund that we work with our members on. But if you email anything innovation@aps or if@aps, your question will get answered. And as far as the proposal development hours, our website, if you just search APS Innovation Fund, it'll get you to the Innovation Fund website, and there is a link on that website to sign up for one of those office hours. So I hope that, so either one,
Yeah.
Innovation or IF, you'll get us.
Okay, great. Can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you could maybe comment a little bit on perhaps the scope of some of the previous Innovation Fund winners, because my group, we've been discussing, okay, how big does it have to go? I mean, we're not going to be touching on something in every state in the country, or, it's not going to be so large, but I'm at the University of North Carolina. So we have ideas for, around the state, but like, what is maybe too grandiose or what's too small? We're trying to find where we could fit in, to what you're looking for.
Absolutely. Well, David, I'm also in North Carolina in Raleigh. So glad that you're joining us today. So if we think about like our previous Innovation Fund cycles, the scope was in some ways broad. It was, whatever your idea is in some way that you can advance the APS mission, not doing traditional research, traditional physics research, but do something positive in the physics community regarding advocacy or physics education, equity and inclusion. It was very open in that regard. And those are still important in the Innovation Fund now. It's just, we just now want you to align that directly with the International Year of Quantum. But as far as the size of your project, we know like $50,000 you can do that budget very quickly, right? And so just think about, it doesn't have to meet everybody's needs. It could be, again, something that you're able to develop. This is, again, seed funding, pilot funding. So it's your opportunity to pilot it with, the audience that you can access, whether that's, in North Carolina or somewhere else, but it doesn't necessarily, we don't have a number per se, but it's just thinking about when we say public, we don't want it to be, 5 or 10 people that you know at your university. All right. It's really getting a general, and it doesn't always just have to be the physics population, but getting that information out there or a way that people can engage with it. And I don't know if that's answering your question about size and scope. The key is, in what you're thinking and developing, where you are. If you say, this is the audience that I want to use, and it's a small audience in Chapel Hill or Hillsborough or Carrboro, North Carolina, we want you to tell us why it's important that you do it with that group of people. But then how you're able successfully to do it with that group of people and how you could keep it going. So I hope that helps. Like, why is it important that your idea be shared with that specific group, and making sure that you're including that how they need the information delivered to them. Is that helpful, David?
Yeah, certainly. I think we can go a bit further in a
Okay.
one-on-one with the office hours, but yeah, absolutely. That's great. Thank you so much, Jermaine.
Okay. And I also realize that it is, I think today is the 22nd. Those office hours don't start until April 9th, primarily because we have APS April meeting and other things to prepare for next week. But if there are questions that you want to ask before those office hours, please feel free to be in contact. I see.
Okay, Nicole?
Hello. So you had mentioned earlier on that you didn't want the funding to stop after that 18 months. So is it important to showcase sources and uses of funds past that 18-month runway for the pre-proposal? Is that something that you'd like to see to show continuation of the project?
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that, that's a whole nother step, and we're just providing this small seed funding, but we want you, even if you don't have it confirmed, to think about how it could happen, and not just the ideation behind that, but actually knowing like, oh, this funding source is actually interested in general in doing things like this. We would approach them to do that. Or thinking about how your institution, wherever, if it's a university, it's industry, nonprofit, having those conversations with them about, if we were able to do this, is this something that you could support? Or could you help us do fundraising for it? Or looking at grants that are out there now that maybe you could apply for in 2 years that are looking for similar things for your idea. So we know you may not have confirmed commitments, but we want things that we definitely know could be possible. Does that help?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody else want to come off mute, or a question in the chat?
Hi, good morning. Thank you for your time. Quick logistical question. Do you have any templates we should use, or like what would be the best way for you for this proposal?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So if you go onto our Innovation Fund website, and Kat, I don't know if you're able to put a link maybe in the chat of our website, but there should be a link to the application. It should say a button that says apply now. So you can go ahead into the application system, and you will type everything into that system for the pre-proposal. It already has the questions listed there and also the word limit. So if you wanted to start what you're thinking about in, a Word document or a Google document, you can do that, but you are welcome. You can go ahead and go into the application system. You can start your application, even if it's just with your name and your team. We encourage you to go ahead and start the piece, but you don't have to submit it at this point. So yeah, that would be, you're just going to type everything in there. You can copy and paste it from another document. And that's something I didn't bring up, is there are word limits for our pre-proposals. So for each question, it is 300 words, because we want to know your idea, but we also need it to be concise as well. Did that help answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. Right. Okay. There. I'm seeing some questions. I know I see some questions regarding international applicants. Again, if you are APS member, you can apply. And if you are doing, it doesn't have to be, the project does not have to be a US based project. So I want to make sure that came through. But I think Maria has a question. Oh, Maria, I think you're still muted.
Hi, sorry.
That's all
Yes.
right.
Question, who will evaluate the pre-proposal? I mean, only the units or the Innovation Fund office will make a pre-selection?
Yeah, great question. So we have a review panel that is comprised of APS presidential line, the APS senior leadership team, not all of them, but some of them, like Chief of External Affairs and also Chief Financial and Operating Officer. And we've also have some current APS members who are quantum science and technology experts in industry and also in higher education that are on the panel, the review panel as well. And we have some of our APS, internal APS key partners that are part of the review process, such as our membership unit, and we have our industry program manager that's a part of that as well. Another key partner is our APS marketing and communications. They are also part of that review panel. So that group of people will review all proposals and provide scoring and recommendations on them moving forward in the top pre-proposal phase or the full proposal. So the units, the relevant units. So again, if you're with a unit, and just be aware that we did send an email to make sure we know who to contact to review your proposal, but the units related to the proposal, and then also the APS IYQ working group, they will be asked to provide a review of the top pre-proposals only. And then they will also be asked to review all of the full proposals in addition to the review panel as well, so that we can have a full view of what the proposal is or is not meeting.
Just to understand, for example, if some pre-proposal are international, let's say, so maybe the FIP, the unit FIP might be involved. That's the situation. I mean, the related units means that is of interest of that unit, not is a partner.
Right, correct. Yes, correct. Subject matter interest, yes, not just a partner. And really the units and the IYQ working group, they're more so providing recommendations to the review panel, because that review panel has been approved by the APS board to make recommendations on who's awarded. So the review panel is taken into consideration, also not only their feedback, but the feedback from the IYQ working group and the unit as well.
Another quick question. Previous awardees, like me, can reapply as a PI, or there is a limit on the number of Innovation Fund that you can apply?
No, you can. So we've seen members submit multiple pre-proposals, not tons, but we've seen them do like maybe submit two pre-proposals with different groups and different subject matter. You can do that, and you're really being, reviewed on what you submit. But I do not think, it has not been done, that we have given, awards to like the same person, but it depends on the team. So we've had, like, right now we have an award that was awarded in 2022, where one of the folks there is the PI, and that was awarded, but they had also been a part of another team as a co-PI that also submitted a proposal, and it didn't impact them being on either. It's just the other one did not meet the criteria. So you can submit multiple, but you can only be the official PI submitter for one. But you can be part of others that are submitted.
But my question was different. I already got an innovation fund years ago. So
Mhm.
now I can apply in this round?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And there is a difference between PI and co-PIs or
Yes.
it's, oh, okay.
Yeah, we hold for the Innovation Fund, we hold the PI as the primary responsible person for everything regarding that award being implemented and also executed. And see the co-PIs as more of those are your team members. Also, the PI, if you're awarded, the funding then is reimbursed to the PI's institution, not the co-PI's institution.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm. I know we are after 1 o'clock at this moment. Just a reminder that I will send these slides to you all so that you have them as a resource. Do not hesitate to reach out to us. I will stick around for a little bit if you have more questions, but happy to be here for a few more minutes for those that have the time to stay. For those of you that need to jump off at this time, I really do appreciate you joining us today. And I hope that you will consider submitting a pre-proposal, but I also encourage you to share this information with your colleagues, whether they're at your institution or somewhere else, because we want to make sure that all of our members are aware of this great benefit that APS has and the importance of this work for the physics community. So thank you so much for joining, and I'll stick around if there are other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.